Hi, welcome to today's video. My name is Paul. So this week's video is kind of a reaction to a video that's existed on YouTube for quite a few years and has been seen by a lot of people. I think there's more than 1 million views for that video. My video is not going to get 1 million views. It'll probably, on a good day, it might get about 20, 30, 50 views. But still, I want to make the video. That video that I'm reacting to is quite a negative video. I don't think, as artists, I don't think there's much in there that we can learn from, if anything really. But for the sake of completeness and fairness, I'll put a link to that video in the description box below, if anybody wants to go and watch it. My video, I hope, will be a little bit more positive and a little bit more useful in terms of what we as artists can learn from modern art and why I think it's worth studying. So start off with something of a definition of what I mean by modern art. Usual disclaimer, this is all just my subjective opinions. I'm not saying this is how you should think or this is the right definition. It's just my opinions, my ideas. Modern art, what is it? Well, again, art historians, for example, don't agree when modern art started. They don't agree with who was involved, what artists were modern artists. They don't agree about when it finished. In fact, some of them don't even agree that modern art was a thing. Some say it was just a label, a convenient label applied to a random group of artists over a certain time period. I don't want to get into all of that swamp of art history. I just want to have something of a definition to get started with. On screen you can see two pieces of art. On the left hand side is what I would describe as traditional Western art, academic art. It is a very technical approach to art. It is rule based. It is based on convention and tradition. If you want to make this type of art, you're going to really have to learn to draw to a very, very high standard. You'll have to learn all about perspective. You'll have to learn about human anatomy if you're going to try doing portraits or figure work. If you're bringing in color, you'll have to learn about color theory and composition. You have to learn about values and so on and so on. It is a very technical way of making art. And the goal of this sort of naturalistic style of art is to represent the real world as accurately as possible. So there is a little bit of wiggle room, if you like. You can introduce a little bit of individuality, a bit of creativity, but for the most part, your role in this style of art is to represent as accurately as possible the real world. Some people think that's the role of an artist. That's what art is. I disagree. Fundamentally disagree. To me, art can be much more than that. So on the right hand side, we have what I would describe as a piece of modern art. So it is less technical. It is not rule-based. Definitely not rule-based. You still need some knowledge of all of those technical things, but you're not controlled by them. You're freer to choose whether or not you want to apply those rules or not. The goal of modern art is also different. Modern art can be representational, and we'll see a couple of examples in a minute or two, but it doesn't have to be representational. Some modern artists just wanted to play around with form and shapes and colors and to get away from just purely representational art. But again, you're free to do whatever you want, really. And the objective here is not necessarily to represent the real world. It is to express yourself, your own creativity, to the best of your ability. To me, that's what modern art is. So they have very different objectives and very different approaches. But I think they're both perfectly valid ways of making art. They're just different ways of doing it. 4 more examples of what I would call modern art. Top left, Piet Mondrian. That's probably the wrong way to pronounce his name, but he is a very interesting artist. If you're interested in looking at how an artist's style developed over time, I would definitely recommend studying the work of Piet Mondrian. Very interesting. And I would describe him as a modern artist. Bottom left, Vincent van Gogh. Again, some people say he wasn't a modern artist. Different opinions. To me, he was, because he was expressing himself. He didn't just stick to the rules. Yes, he was creating representational art, still lifes like sunflowers or portraits or landscapes. It was representational, but he was doing it in his own way. He was using his own, expressing his own creativity and not just following the rules. Beside that, we have a Fauvist, still life. Again, Fauvism. Some people say this was really the beginning of modern art, with Matisse and then Picasso and his Cubism. Again, it's all, when did it all start? When did it stop? I'll leave that for other people to discuss. Finally, we have on the right a painting by Mark Rothko. I guess abstract expressionism, some people call this. But to me, it all fits in this idea of modern art. Now, you will find a lot of people online criticizing modern art. You'll see a lot of memes, you'll see a lot of YouTube videos, TikTok videos saying how terrible modern art is. Very often, the examples that they give, I would argue, are not modern art. So we have 3 examples on screen. I would say that none of these are modern art. I would describe all of this as postmodern art. So if people can't agree on what modern art is, can they agree what postmodern art is? No. And what's the distinction? It's all very fuzzy again. But to me, there is some differences, some important differences. Modernism, modern art, which, in a broader sense was linked to modernism. Modernism was fundamentally an optimistic way of looking at the world, of looking at the future. The idea that we as a species, as human beings, can build a better world in the future. That's really at the heart of what modernism is. Now, each individual artist, of course, may or may not believe that, or they may not try and represent it in their art, but at its heart, that's what modernism is. Postmodernism, again, everybody disagrees, but one of the recurring themes in postmodernism is a reaction to or reaction against modernism. So if modernism is fundamentally an optimistic view of the future, postmodernism isn't. It's a more skeptical, a more cynical, and very often a more political form of making art. Modernism is not politics. There's no politics in modern art, really. It's quite separate. It wasn't really interested in modern politics. It was interested in each individual expressing themselves in their own way. Postmodernism is less about the individual artist sometimes, and more, as I say, it can be a bit more political. So these are the reasons why I don't describe myself as a postmodern artist. I don't really like it. I'm not interested in, or I don't really have much interest in politics and art merging together. And this style of art, the 3 examples you can see on screen, really doesn't do anything for me. I don't get it. Very briefly, the top left was an Italian artist whose name I can't remember. And this piece of art, and I'm using the word art quite loosely here, was basically, it only exists in his imagination. The white tape, the square that you can see, was there for health and safety reasons, in case somebody accidentally tripped over his invisible piece of art. There's a fair amount of cynicism in this piece of art, if you like. It doesn't exist. When I say it's invisible, I don't mean it's built out of some sort of high technology futuristic materials that somehow reflects light around the sculpture. No, it doesn't exist outside of his imagination, outside of what you might imagine it is. It's just some white tape on the street. That's it. Below that, British artist Tracey Emin, and one of her most famous pieces is, I think it's called Unmade Bed or something equally original. And it is what it is. It's an unmade bed. Is it art? It's very debatable. And then on the right, I guess quite famous recently, again, another Italian artist. I don't know if this is a recurring theme, but another Italian artist who had a roll of duct tape and some bananas and attached the bananas to a wall. He did sell this art for, I think he made several of these, and he sold them for something like $250,000. So I guess credit where credit is due. If somebody had handed me a roll of duct tape and some bananas and said, make money from that, I would have struggled. But he did come up with this idea, and he did sell them. Make of that what you will. But this to me is not modern art. This is postmodern art. And there is a fundamental difference in the approach. As I said, it has different objectives. Modernism is optimistic, it's individualistic. Postmodernism is a bit more cynical, a bit more political, and is less about the individual artist in general. So getting back to a more positive thing, what can we as artists take away from modern art? What can we learn from it? What are the positive things that we can learn from modern art? So to me, as I said, the traditional academic style of art was very rule-based, very much around traditions and conventions. Modern art isn't. There are no rules, there are no conventions, there are no traditions. You can do whatever you want, in whatever way you want. You're free to express your own creativity. So it's all about individualism. And to me, that is a good thing. Some people say it isn't, that tradition or convention is more important, but to me personally, individualism and individual freedom are very important in art and in life in general. And that individualism, that freedom, can be used then for experimentation. So you can try different things. You're free to do whatever you want. There's no rules telling you that you must do it a certain way. So that also brings in then abstraction, and you can use abstraction, you can play around with abstraction, and not all modern art has to be representational. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Again, there are no rules. There is this freedom, and to me that is the positive thing that you can take from studying modern art. It gives you the freedom, it allows you to be creative in whatever way you want to be. There are no rules, no traditions, no conventions, just do what you want. And that to me is the most positive message from studying modern art. As an artist, as somebody who's trying to create their own thing, I think it's a good message to hear. So finish off very briefly, one of my landscapes. As you can see, I'm not being purely representational. There is a lot of abstraction in here and a lot of simplification. Some people will read it as a landscape, some people won't. It doesn't really matter. I'm just doing my own thing. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching and listening, and hopefully see you again in next week's video.